Welcome to Improvement Science in a Minute. I'm Brandon Bennett, and today we'll be exploring empathy interviews, a valuable tool for accessing the stories of people experiencing our systems. The Improvement Science in a Minute web module series is brought to you by the SELPA Systems Improvement Leads project in partnership with Improvement Science Consulting. Our learning objectives for this module include understanding how the experiences of individuals can provide a window into our systems, exploring one method for accessing these experiences, the empathy interview, and developing a plan for conducting an empathy interview. Let's get started. Systems are all around us. We have systems for everything: systems to get around, systems for learning, work systems, government systems, systems for healing. Each of these is complex, dynamic, with interactions occurring between people, processes, and a variety of structures. Leaders do their best to design systems that work, but often, despite our best intentions, they don't. Systems intended to create positive outcomes often don't succeed. Our cars don't start, our family members don't get well, and if we are being honest, many times, and for many students, our education system doesn't provide the education we hope it will. The work of improvement is the transformation of our systems, and to accomplish that work, we need to first understand them. One way we understand our systems is by using quantitative data. We measure things and plot things, we visualize performance, and in doing so, we give voice to our systems. But our systems are not the only voice we need when working to transform their outcomes. We also need the voice of the people. Specifically, we need to understand the experiences of those individuals who experience the complex dynamic nature of our systems. We tend to refer to these people as our users, and their voice is critical to knowing when and where and in what ways our systems need to change. Empathy interviews, the focus of this session, are all about accessing their stories. Before we can unpack what an empathy interview is, it is valuable to step back and define what we mean by empathy. One useful definition is the ability to be aware of, understanding of, and sensitive to another person's feelings and thoughts without having had the same experience. This gets at the heart of understanding our systems. People experience our systems differently. My experience in a classroom will be different from yours because I am different than you are. We may be from different families, have different ages, experience different abilities or disabilities, and will likely come from diverse backgrounds. If our work is to transform a system, to improve it, so that as many people experience success from it as possible, then we will need to understand the diversity of perspectives experiencing the system. We need users' voices to help us learn what works when and for who and what doesn't. There are 3 commonly used empathy methods in improvement science for accessing users' perspectives. The first is to immerse ourselves in the experience of others. One example of the immersion method is Stanford University's recent Shadow a Student Challenge, a nationwide crash course in empathy in which school leaders were invited to experience their school through a student's eyes. The second is observation. Careful observation from a close distance can help us to see the experiences of others. And finally, interview. Through interviews, we give rise directly to the stories and experiences of people affected by the system. Each of these is valuable. All take some time. But the empathy interview allows us to hear directly from people. It is their story to tell, their experience. And though we may be quote-unquote experts, we aren't them. So let's see how it works. Empathy interviews are designed to elicit stories, and there is both an art and a science to bringing forth stories useful for the improvement journey. Preparation is key. It is important to first be clear about the purpose of the interview. Are you collecting stories to identify problems of practice, or stories to understand root causes of a problem already known? Are you identifying the needs of those most impacted by a problem? How do you plan to use the information you gather? Going into the interview, it is important to be prepared with questions. Empathy interviews take a semi-structured approach, which focuses the interview while allowing freedom for follow-up and for the interviewer to pursue deeper explanation of stories as they are told. Good questions will be open-ended. Ask about specific examples and avoid general impressions without asking for solutions. Some useful prompts are: tell me about a time when, or tell me about the last time you. Another might be, what was the best or worst parts about? And still another, can you help me understand more about? It's all about hearing the other person's stories, letting them expound upon a specific instance or experience that illustrates the problem or circumstance you want to learn more about. Interviews take time, and you can only do so many. It's important to negotiate with your team how many interviews you want to conduct to develop deeper insight into your system. In some cases, one is enough, but in others, 2, 3, or even 10 is better to maximize the learning from a diverse set of users experiencing your system. When preparing for empathy interviews, it's important to reflect on your own identity. How might your identity and role affect what individuals share with you? When working with a team, it may be important to pause, discuss this issue, and collectively decide who is best positioned to conduct an interview. Who we are as individuals and in systems matters, and will matter to you when trying to learn with and from others. When the time comes, individual interviews should follow a planned conversational arc. Introductions designed to make your interviewee comfortable are a first step. An explanation of why the team is conducting interviews can demonstrate transparency and encourage honest reflection. People will need to know that you are interested in them and their experiences, and so there should be a conversational tone that builds rapport. Using your prompts encourages people to tell a story about a specific instance related to your purpose. And as the story unfolds, don't be afraid to interject questions that prompt deeper reflection. For example, how did you feel in that moment? Or, tell me more about that. Importantly, stay neutral. Try not to imply your question has a right or wrong answer. The story is theirs to tell. As the conversation winds down, consider asking some questions like, what should I have asked you? Did I miss anything? Or what else would you like to share? And in the end, be sure to thank the individual for their valuable contribution. Pause here for a moment. Consider a problem or practice in your system. How could you understand both your system and your problem better by using empathy interviews? Take some time to think through these prompts. Who is experiencing the problem? Students, families, teachers, administrators? Identify 3 individuals or users who you could interview about their experiences of the system. Plan an interview that will access their experiences and will allow you to learn from their stories. As you plan, don't forget to identify your purpose for the interviews and pre-think some question prompts that will elicit detailed experiences. Welcome back. With a plan in place, the next step is to actually carry out one or more empathy interviews. It is important to be able to capture what you hear in your interviews. We recommend you do think with paper and pen, writing down quotes and tracking their stories as they are told. Generally, we recommend only using recordings as a last result for information capture, as knowledge that something is being recorded can often stifle or change what a person is willing to share with us about their experiences. When it comes to recording empathy interviews, it is always best practice to seek permission before starting any recording of the conversation. It can be useful to structure your notes in a way that will allow you to synthesize learning from your interview or interviews later. Many people will find it helpful, both during an interview and afterwards, with learning from multiple interviews, to create pre-planned categories for what they are hearing and observing. 4 useful categories include: say. What did the individual actually say out loud? Words and quotations are placed here. Think. This section captures what people thought about their experiences and their reflections. Do. In this section, we can capture things like the body language of the storyteller, or any other actions we notice that might be relevant. Feel. Like think, this section is more inferential and is about capturing how we as interviewers perceived the feelings and emotions of the storytellers. When using this structure to summarize learnings from one or more interviews, it is also useful to add 2 more categories to our page: needs and insights. These are reflections interviewers and their team glean from the interviews undertaken. Needs are verbs, and they represent emotional or physical necessities expressed through the stories told. Often these come through as frustrations, wishes, or something a person found missing from an experience with our system. Insights are the realizations you as an interviewer or as an improvement team have had as a result of the interviews you have conducted. They sound something like, "We never realized that people experience our system in this way," or "There's a clear theme about what works and doesn't work coming through, and that is." Empathy interviews are a powerful way to access people's stories. We encourage you to give them a try. The Improvement Science in a Minute web module series is brought to you by the SELPA System Improvement Leads project in partnership with Improvement Science Consulting. The SIL project is a collaborative grant project between El Dorado County Office of Education, West San Gabriel Valley, SELPA, and Riverside County SELPA. The SIL project is supported by the California Department of Education and the California Collaborative for Educational Excellence.